Good afternoon. Before we get started, you are correct. I am not a rabbi. Behind the mask and the COVID hair and the beard is Steve, Ed's buddy for over 50 years. A while ago, Ed said to me, when the time comes, he'd like me to conduct the service. And I told him I would do so with honor. The service will be in 6 short segments: Kriyah, Psalms, Eulogies, El Male Rachamim. Stay tuned for that because that's when I have to sing, so you don't want to miss that. Kaddish and interment. The parts that might need explanation, I'll try to do so along the way. The Psalms are in the booklet that you'll get momentarily. Edward Mark Netter. Chaim Mordechai Ben Shalom. Chavarim, dear friends, we're here together and apart on the internet today to give kavod as we honor the memory of our beloved Ed. Truly a mensch, a loving man of great strength, yet gentle as a lamb. An extremely capable and wise being. Together with the love of his wife of almost 40 years, Debbie, Ed dedicated his life to the well-being of family and friends and became an inspiration to all those that he cared for. On behalf of the family and friends whose life has been touched by Ed, we express our deepest condolences to Ed's parents, Jules and Ruth Netter, his wife Debbie, his children Sam and Miriam, his grandchildren who brought Ed so much joy: Billy, Ezra, Gabriel, Halia, and Jameson, his brother Jeff, sister Kim, his in-laws Judy Wasserman and her late husband Herb of blessed memory, his sister-in-law Amy and brother-in-law Dan. Just as Debbie became a Netter, Ed also became a Wasserman. He was so close to the entire Wasserman family. To the numerous cousins, nieces, and nephews, and to the rest of the family and friends. We're going to begin with Kriyah, which is the tearing of the cloth. Sam and Miriam and Jeff, please come up. The tearing of one's clothes is an expression of grief and anger at the loss of a loved one. I'm going to help each one tear the cloth as we say a blessing. Or you guys going to tear it? All right, so tear the cloth. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who rules the universe, who is the judge of truth. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem, Adonai Mivarach. Adonai has given, and Adonai has taken. Praised be the name of Adonai. It is said that the tearing of the outer garment is like opening a window to the heart and soul. So the love you have for Ed and he for you can flow out and in and continue to grow forever. In the words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for speaking and a time for silence, a time for seeking and a time for losing. The time for mourning very complicated, filled with many emotions and memories. We're going to continue with the recitation of the two psalms that are in the booklets. Please join me in the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We're going to, El Male Rachamim is later. On the next page, we'll do the second psalm together, please. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place, but having made the journey. Stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Sam?
I had an idea of what I was going to say, but it really touched me. It was really hard, still is. My dad and I had a really special relationship. It's like hard for me to even put into words, but I just love him so much. I got to spend some good time with him. He was such a great person. And I just have great stories of people calling, relatives, telling me how good of a person he was. And I couldn't thank him enough for everything that he did, everything that he gave for me, the family. It just broke my heart to see everything happen. He knows I love him. And it's so heartbreaking. I just don't know what else to say other than I love him. I'll always remember him. He was so good to my kids. He was like the best. He gave me so much opportunity and such good morals and everything. And I'm glad that I got to spend time with him at the end. And I just don't have anything else to say. Thank you.
Ed was the best brother. He was my best man. I'm so proud of him for what type of brother, what kind of person he is, and what kind of relationship we had within our family. And Ed was always helping us and willing to do whatever we asked if we ever in need, and for advice. And great brother. And wanted to talk a little bit about what it was like with Ed growing up, because not just the recent tough times, but Ed, as a lot of you guys know, it's always an adventure growing up with Ed. I was the junior wingman to Ed. I followed him everywhere. He let me hang around with his friends, both when I was young and also later at the University of Illinois. Growing up, we played in the woods, in the neighborhood, ended up sitting on a lot of Yellow Jackets' nests by accident, playing in the woods, played with walkie-talkies. And I want to tell you a couple fun stories that I had with my brother. One time, this is up in Milwaukee, we found out the secret to Clutch Park, which is a nearby park to where we lived. And we found out that there was a lot of groups that go there, and they have outings, and they all had these name tags that a lot of them fell off. So we'd go there, and we'd get the ice cream, we'd play in the games, we'd have the hot dogs, and then we'd go home. And my folks always wondered why Ed and I weren't hungry for dinner. So that was the secret of Clutch Park that Ed helped introduce me to. We also went cave exploring together. Took me on a couple scuba diving expeditions. Some of the most amazing time I had with my brother. It was pretty spectacular. He was really into scuba diving and scuba diving photography, and learned a lot from him. Also, we went on a lot of family trips, and we, being brothers, we would fight a lot, but in the end, nothing too serious. And Ed wasn't so innocent. A lot of you guys know that, especially his friends. Most of the time he was. He never seemed to get in trouble, but a few times what happened was, this was a relay to me. I think I was too young, but one time he ended up, when he was 5 years old, bringing chocolate laxatives that looked like chocolate bars to his classmates in school. And my dad got a phone call, and it turned out that Ed had gotten into some stuff he wasn't supposed to. So my dad said he is fully pardoned. Another time, he had a little fender bender, and the parking pylon, the stationary one, seemed to have run into his car somehow. So that was interesting. And Ed was always I think he had a PhD in animal control. He would find all these critters and bring them home. Anything from turtles, frogs, crayfish, stray cats, even a baby raccoon once. When we were in Boy Scouts together, he was a Life Scout, which was appropriate. And he was really into scouting, and I was into it for the fun parts of it, but Ed was an ace at getting the merit badges. And in addition to that, he, unlike myself, he played the cornet in high school. I had to practice in the basement with the door shut. Ed was actually pretty good. And we used to take turns both helping my sister as well as teasing my sister. But it would turn out that Kim turned out to both be smarter than us and wiser than us. So she got the eventual payback. Kim wanted to get her driver's license, and I think my folks wanted her to wait a little longer, but they went away on a trip, and she got Ed to help her out to get her driver's license. So there's Ed helping out Kim again. I also have fond memories. We had epic games of Risk and Monopoly and little green army men all over the house. He taught me a few good life skills. Playing tricks. I think he learned those from some of his college buddies. How they would penny their friends into their rooms and then put an envelope full of confetti or other things underneath the door. And people ask me, what did Ed do for work? And when I first tried explaining to it, all I remember is, he said, I get up at like 4 in the morning or so, go down, and something to do with pork bellies, soybeans, and lumber. So he was good at it. Mom and Dad, you raised a great one. And Ed, friends, I thank you for all the friendship and help towards my brother. All my cousins, especially all over the world, in fact. And I wanted to thank Debbie and the extended Wasserman family for all they've been helping Ed with, and his co-workers at work as well. I put together a little couple items to help Ed on his next fun journey, which might be helpful here. So let me show you a few things I put together for Ed on his next journey. Many of you know Ed is a big fisherman, so I'm presenting him with a portable fishing rod to add to his collection, and some more fishing lures. Being the big scuba diver, a scuba mask for his next adventure. I have something from Ryan and something from Jake. Some not quite Picasso artwork from Ryan, and Jake, one of his first sculptures. It's a ceramic penguin that brings good luck, so we'll add that to his journey. Also, an all-day IPA beer, which has a special feature. It will never run out. So here's to you, Ed. In addition, to hang on the boat, Ed, you are the best brother ever. Love, Kim. And on the back, do not tell Jeff. I'm going to give you my cookbook, which isn't much. A man, a can, a plan cookbook, Ed. The good news is I put some real recipes in there from people that know how to cook. The mom's rugula, which you called Ruthula's. Uncle Dave's homemade ice cream and cookies. Marinated flank steak, and the homemade pickles recipes. There's some other good ones in here too. Now it's payback time, Ed. This is a Boston Bruins hockey puck. All those years when the Bears beat the New England Patriots in 1985, and when the Blackhawks beat the Bruins, you are now officially a Boston sports team fan. Congrats. Just kidding. And the last item to wear out fishing is a official University of Illinois Mr. Happy 2 boating hat. Wear it well. I love you, Ed. You're the best.
Ed, we're gonna miss you. Way too soon, way too soon. As they say in the Jewish religion, instead of rest in peace, we say Allah v'sholom. May you rest in peace, Ed. It was a long journey together with Ed and Steve and the rest of the guys. And whoever knew Ed, 99% of them were friends with Ed for life. Debbie was married to him for forever, not long enough. He used to comfort her on the shoulder, and they went together everywhere in the world. Ed traveled everywhere, learned that from Ruth and Jula. I think Ed went to Asia and England and France and the Caribbean. He lived a long life, but not long enough. Jeff forgot to say that when Ed came from Milwaukee, he did have one small problem. He was a Packer fan. His famous line was, "The Pack will be back." But he converted and became a Bears fan. I hope I didn't ruin that for you, Steve. He converted and became a Bears fan. Ed was a great, adoring grandfather. He'd do anything for those grandkids. He'd do anything for his family. He did everything for Debbie. He did everything for Debbie's family. He got along with just about unbelievable. He got along with everybody. And Ed was just steady. He worked at a job. We don't even know what he did there, but he always said I wasn't gonna be there next year. But he was the only guy who survived every layoff. The only one who laid him off was the good Lord. He must have been pretty good at what he did. We all know that. And we were all, as they would say, blessed that he did it. And he's lucky the two grandchildren are here, and Sam was there at the end. He stepped up to the plate and did everything that a son could be asked to do in the last times of his life. And I'll leave and end the story here, but I know he appreciates the Jewishness of the service, and I'm sure he appreciates Steve doing the service. And Ruth and Jewel appreciate that he getting buried in a Jewish cemetery with a Jewish service. But one time we went on a trip with the Netters, and it was an all-day trip in Costa Rica. Debbie and the rest of them went back, and I don't know who was left. We were doing rapids, horseback riding, and it was late at night, and it was like Ed and me and Kevin, my son, and Amy, and I don't know if Sam was there, and there was these Costa Rican guys who were taking forever to ride back on horseback, and Kevin and I were going there to take us into the woods and murder us and rob us. And Ed was doing what he's going to be doing now. He was on his horse with his arms up, singing "Happy Trails" to you. Ed, we hope that you have happy trails with you. We miss you. We love you.
Hi, I'm Ed's friend Larry. Known Ed for 46 years. I just did the math. And met him sophomore year in college. We lived together for a couple years in college. And then we moved in after college. We bought a place together, and he was my buddy, my best buddy for so many years. And one thing that I have to say, I love fishing. I used to go fishing with my dad when I was a kid. He always went because he knew I liked it. I met Ed. This was a guy who loved fishing even more than me. we went fishing all the time. We went up to Canada a few times, Minnesota. These memories I'll never forget. Ed, I love you. I miss you. Just be safe and well. Thank you.
Edward Mark Netter was born on March 31st, 1955, outside Philadelphia in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania. His suburban childhood continued as the family, now with a younger brother and sister, moved to outside of Milwaukee to Glendale, Wisconsin. And several years later, as a young teenager, Ed and his family moved again to outside of Chicago to Northbrook, Illinois. When Ed was 14, his mother, Ruth, learned that a Jewish family was moving right down the block. Ruthie welcomed the family to the neighborhood with a basket of goodies and open arms. When she discovered this family also had a 14-year-old boy, she went home and got her Edela and dragged him back to meet the new kid on the block. That day was the first day of a 50-year unbelievable and awesome friendship. As youngsters, Ed was my mentor. He knew about and how to do so many things, especially when it came to the outdoors. He knew I was eager to learn, and he was so happy to teach me. Fishing, as we all know, is one of his great loves. He taught me how to fish, how to cast, how to bait a hook, how to tie a proper fishing knot. But I think he did keep a few secrets to himself, and I know that because he always caught more fish and bigger fish than I ever did, every single time we went fishing. Ed taught me all about camping and how to build a campfire and pitch a tent, how to paddle a canoe. He showed me how to build a slingshot from a paper clip and a rubber band. He called them minis. And also taught me how to accurately shoot a BB from one of those minis. He taught me how to make a 1-minute delayed firecracker fuse. He tried to teach me how to do a backflip, but I never could, not even close. But Ed could. He could do a complete 360 in the air. Oh, pranks. Ed loved pranks. I loved pranks. Some of our roommates in college didn't like the pranks so much. There was one period of time over 4 semesters that we went through about 6 roommates. No one was willing to live with us. Ed also loved contests, especially ones he could win. One time we noticed a cockroach in our apartment. Rather than get rid of them in a normal way, like spraying them with poison or, God forbid, clean the place up, Ed made it a contest. Who could kill the most roaches? And he had a plan to win. He'd get up in the middle of the night and hunt them down with a flashlight, then drag me out of bed so I could confirm and count all his kills. Ed loved life, and he had a real gusto for food, quantity, and speed. When we would go out for a meal, by the time I got comfortable and had the ketchup out of the packets or the bottle, took my first bite, inevitably, I would look up and Ed was finished. I often mentioned that I knew no one could out-eat Ed. Once, an acquaintance was visiting us. He was a big guy. He said, "No way little Ed could eat more than me. I must outweigh him by 50 pounds. I just chuckled, and soon a wager was made. They started with a big bowl of spaghetti, a whole loaf of garlic bread, a package of bologna, then a can of beans each. They were starting to slow down, then got a second wind, a bag of chips, a bag of pretzels, then a box of cookies, then a pint of ice cream each. They couldn't move. They were staring at each other on the couch. Could it be a draw? I don't think so. Ed got a twinkle in his eye, got up, opened a can of tuna fish, and started eating it. The other fellow cried, "Uncle, you win." Not long after college, we both got married and began raising our own families. Ed and Debbie moved from Ed's condo in Glenview to an ancient bungalow in Evanston, then a new home in Grayslake, followed by the mini estate in Long Grove, and finally to Lincolnshire, my hometown for many years. Imagine that. Last year I learned that a Jewish family was moving right down the block. If I could only have another 50 years. Yehi Zecharo Baruch, may his memory endure as a blessing. I'm going to now do El Male Rachamim. It's in English in the booklets, which we can read together afterwards. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bamromin, Amsei Menucha, Nechona Tochat, Kunfei Hashkina, Lema'alot Kedoshim Uthorim, Kazohar Harakia Mizharim, Et Nishmat Chaim Mordechai Ben Shalom, Shehalach Le'alamo, Bagan Adain Tahei Menuchato, Ana Baal Harachamim, Hastireu B'Seter Kanafecha Le'olamim, Utzror B'Tzror Hachim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach B'Shalom, Al Mishkavo, V'nomar Amen. Please join me. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence, among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Edward Mark Netter, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring him under the cover of thy wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession, and may his repose be peace. Amen. We're going to do the Kaddish Yaton. The mourner's Kaddish is in the booklet on the back. Please rise. Yit Gadal, Yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yomad Divra Kirutei, V'yamlich Machutei, B'chayichon, V'yomechon, V'chayedechal Beit Yisrael, L'Agala V'zman Kariv, V'yimaru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Omei Omaya. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitba'ar, V'yitraman, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shemei D'Kudashah, B'richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran bi'alma v'yimaru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. Oseh shalom b'mrumav, v'uya aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. In the interment, we traditionally shovel 3 or more times. The first one may be done backwards as a sign of our reluctance to say goodbye. Ali Makomo Yavo Bashalom. May Chaim Mordechai Ben Shalom go unto God in peace. that was earth from Mount Olive in Israel that we put on top.
So at this time, for those of you perhaps beginning with family who'd like to come forward and participate in the burial, you may do so. The cemetery is providing little cups that we can use to pick up some sand and earth to cast into the grave, and then you can throw the little cup into the basket. If you'd like to use gloves, we have those available for you as well. Your husband did a nice job. Ladies and gentlemen, and for those of you participating and joining us through Zoom, in just a few moments the cemetery staff will complete the task of filling in the grave once everyone has had the opportunity to participate here. At that time, that will conclude the services here. People are welcome to stay at the gravesite to witness the cemetery staff working and completing the task of filling the grave, or you may return to your cars. Also, there will be a Zoom Shiva that will be held on Sunday from 4 until 5:30. And that information and the link to the Zoom, to participate in the Zoom Shiva for the Nutter family, is on our website at chicagojewishfunerals.com. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the services here at the gravesite.